money is a breeding ground for complacency. Cash is obviously the number one lifeblood of any company. The lifeblood of most companies is pivoting, growing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and continually sort of modifying.
Hey, welcome back for another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. We have today the international man of mystery. Darren, will you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, sir. So, hey, my name is Darren Moore. I'm the CEO of ZURA Group. ZURA, we're a market maker in what I would say frontier markets. We have a two-sided business model. Yeah, we have a two-sided business model. The first is we help local customers, governments, really bring stability, rule of law, and peace to their communities. And then the second side of that business model is we help those same communities activate the natural resources, which are so abundant in these frontier markets, in a responsible way to grow wealth in the community. So that's what we do.
Okay.
We're a market maker.
What are the big hiccups have you hit? I mean, there's obviously, you're dealing with multiple government types, multiple agencies, multiple restrictions from the U.S. government, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, what kind of things have you hit on a geopolitical sphere, I guess, have you wished you'd known about earlier? Because sometimes operating as an American overseas isn't as easy as people think.
No, it's true. Absolutely true. I mean, that's sort of why our holding company is out of Switzerland, to be honest with you. There's certainly, we have presence in Mauritius, which makes banking here on the continent.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is, you obviously have to be very well versed in regulatory matters. You have to be cautiously courageous in that, if it were easy, everybody really would be doing it.
Totally.
And that's not just a colloquial statement. It's like quite true. And I think from a challenge standpoint, in a lot of these markets, you've seen people who are wildly successful, disproportionately successful to the general populace, to other folks in similar industries and other locations around the world. But you have to be conscious that return is absolutely correlated and causated by risk. And so, you'd like to see folks saying, we underwrite risk or we manage downside exposure. We quite frankly do that in a physical sense and in a administrative business structuring, deal structuring sense. So I think some of the challenges we've seen is, you never want to be the first, right? You never really want to be the third or fourth, but you definitely want to be the best model, and you don't want to be last. And one of the scary things right now is, I mean, if we look at these billionaires, right, they're all trying to get to space, get to the next, they're
the next frontier.
Exactly. And we are absolutely operating in an environment where at a certain time, there will be the literal and again, figurative and literal gold rush. And so we need to be cognizant of that, maintain first mover, best mover advantage. But again, our risk, like you said, doing business overseas as an American, we have, just systemically more risk to ourselves. And then also, I think shareholders are much more sensitive because we're in quite frankly, we have a very protected investment environment in the United States and the West. So
yes, we do.
So we've had that blessing. Yeah.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. I do a lot of work in Southeast Asia, and I'm very familiar with similar market conditions, I guess you could say. And I've seen a lot of people take advantage of it, and I see a lot of people just helping the people do it right, which is very cool.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate meeting good founders like you who are trying to help the people do it in an honest way that helps them really see the long-term value for the people, as well as for the guy that brought it to him. I mean, there's definitely room for credit to be given, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's not, a lot of these manuals are already written. How do you responsibly activate natural resources, right? Arable land, rare earth, minerals, whatever. There's a playbook for that. The UN, Responsible Natural Resource Program. There's In the,
Wow.
in the West, we have a lot of this stuff. It's already baked in, right? When
Yeah.
you look,
Yeah.
in Europe, of course, with regulations around pesticides, etc. So it's already sort of there. We're just taking it out of one ecosystem, bringing it into the other, and
Cool.
being
Cool.
transparent about it as we do it. Mm-hmm.
So over a decade in business,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have got, you've obviously grown and scaled.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your growth journey. I mean, how has that been? I imagine I mean, was it a pretty quick start, or did it take a little while to figure the model and then you grew?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how this worked.
Sure. So starting from the beginning, I started as a consultant, right? Just sort of advising, I would say
Right.
Fortune 100 companies looking to do business in the emerging markets. After
Right.
a few years, customers and clients just said, "Hey, instead of advising us, could you just go out and do this stuff?" Right? It's just a lot easier if you do it because, from a market entry standpoint or market development, business development standpoint, there comes a point in time
Right.
where it's just cheaper to outsource some of that stuff, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
and so then a few years later, our customer set, became a lot more serious. One of the largest customer sets in the world, the U.S. government, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then we were going to be bought, or it was going to be bought again by some of the Fortune 50. We were in discussions with some of those same folks that we were consulting with years ago,
Awesome.
and and
Awesome.
really had to make the choice of, hey, do I sell or do we grow? And so I made the choice at that point to grow. And yeah, and
Awesome.
the decision point was around, okay, I've built up these relationships. I've built up, and the team has built up this capacity. You know,
Yeah.
Obviously, we're helping people in places that need help, and we're activating, again, natural resources and things that need to be activated. Do we sell out
Right.
now and potentially lose that value for my own gain, or do we
Right.
take it to the next level? And so that was the most recent integration where we shifted from ZURA Consulting to ZURA Group. And that
Right.
came with its own host of scaling challenges as they were. But
Well,
that's a growth journey, man. Yeah.
that is an awesome journey, and honestly, it sounds like you've taken some serious pivots there. You got some decision points where you had to make the right move. Whether it's right or wrong, you made a move,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately you're where you're at today because you made very specific decisions and didn't just vacillate for years and end up with nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Which is awesome. So as you executed, you mentioned that there have been some some challenges occasionally.
Sure.
I think a lot of people listen to this podcast and they think, "Wow, what an amazing
So
story!
easy.
That is so
Yeah.
cool."
So easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
easy. Did tell us what sucked. I mean, what are the parts that you hit that were just kind of like, "Oh my gosh, what an idiot," or that I didn't see that coming type
Yeah,
moments?
I mean, look, so I think first off, I think there's some of my personal mentors, there's a level of disappointment. Why didn't you just sell, get out? A moniker is, sell out, buy 5 Chipotles and a boat and go retire somewhere. That's been told to me. So I think there's some
I love it.
disappointment there. I think one of the challenges is when we, when we first sort of quote, knew when I first sort of quote knew it was real. Um,
Right.
you have a lot of money coming in, right? And money is a breeding ground for complacency, at
Yes.
any stage of a company. And so, one of the
Yes.
challenges I've had is, I think, always sort of trying to continually grow, which is so important. They
Right.
say that cash is obviously the number one lifeblood of any company, whether it be through additional capital raises or whether it be through just cash flow and growth. But I would say the
Right.
lifeblood of most companies is pivoting, growing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and continually sort of modifying. I would say that was one of my
Right.
biggest challenges, was basking in the sunlight of just more money than I'd ever seen. Uh, and 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 again, that complacency. I think
Yeah.
I then think, you start getting invited to, Cambridge Business School and all these things that, oh my
Sure.
gosh, I'd never expected to be here. And the
Sure.
vanity, and that, again, that what that brings to you as well, and sort of being conscious of
Look
like,
how cool I
yeah,
am.
man, I'm so
Yeah.
cool. Let me tell you how I did it. Um, and I think that's what got me caught up a couple times. In fact, our executive leadership team today. I mean, as an
Yeah.
example, one of the guys sold one of his companies and built this huge orphanage in East Africa. And
Yeah.
obviously amazing, but you didn't have to take 80% of your personal capital and do that. This massive school.
Right.
So I think you just need to be cognizant of that and have the balance of things are great
That's
today, but what
awesome.
about tomorrow? Sorry, brother, I cut you off. So
I am so glad you're here, and I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. You'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode. No,
yeah,
you totally didn't. I thought that was freaking
thank
awesome.
you.
Very good response. A lot of people do feel like when they make their first few $1 million that somehow they are special and that they are unique and that they're, just amazing for having blessed the earth with their presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that your ability to dive back into the root core of why you were doing this to begin with kind of keeps you grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful that you're still doing what you're doing because your impact can be felt all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's a, if you sort of read into the business model, you check out the website, there's a grand strategy there. Again, we've seen in these frontier markets a predatory approach to these things, and we see
Yes.
opportunistic approach to them as well. And so I think there's a duty to do it right, and I think there's a duty
Right.
to try and be a bridge builder because
Sure.
because believe it or not, we're all in the pursuit of same things. But
Right.
it's pretty awe-inspiring to see some of these nations only 30 to 40 years old. Some of them under sanction still today
Right.
because of bad behavior and bad boys and bad girls. But
Right.
they're thriving and they're growing. So I think part of it is also,
Yeah.
man, just stay in it and live off that energy. That's what we do, anyways.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop you in your tracks because I have a feeling there's a lot of people in Silicon Valley saying, I'm on a frontier marketplace because I'm expanding new technology, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about a different type of frontier?
No, so it is frontier in the literal and metaphorical sense. A lot of these markets, I would say, are undeveloped. They're underserved. They're fast
Right.
growing. Your entry basis is really low. Your upside is very high. But they're also
Yeah.
frontier markets from a technology standpoint. You see huge impact, huge return on investment, huge just returns on a societal and also a financial level when you are bringing out
Right.
some of those frontier tech into these markets. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So in terms of a global impact, where are you focused mostly?
Yeah, so we're mostly focused in Africa. We've been out there for just over a decade. All of our leadership has
Awesome.
been there for a while, but we're also opportunistic. We're in the Caribbean. We have interests in South America, but I would say mostly
Nice.
Africa and then Western Hemisphere.
Very cool.
Yes, sir.
Very cool. All right. So the model is you go in with education, mentorship. Tell us about the model. I mean, how do you actually execute
Sure.
on what you're talking about?
Yeah, so we have a brokerage and self-execution model on the front end. So again, stability, rule of law, peace. On the logistics
Right.
side, we come in and perform those logistics. From the peace and the rule of law standpoint, we work with those customers to address, again, instability. Perhaps, as you know, look at. I'll date the podcast. Look at what's happening in Sudan right now. How do we come in?
Right.
How do we solve those solutions in a way
Right.
that's non-predatory in nature, and of course, again, proliferates peace. And so doing so, we have these relationships with, decision makers and folks on the
Right.
ground. And so through that, we get access to these other opportunities. And when we look at, again, in the literal and metaphorical sense,
Yeah.
Africa and some of these frontier markets, from a planetary standpoint, they're the last final frontiers, right? And then you have the deep
Right.
space
Right.
and you have space, the stars. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be some serious frontier to go after.
yeah, exactly. So we're out there. And yeah, it's like I said, two-sided business model. And we really are a market maker. We want to bring solutions to folks who need
Love it.
solutions. Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
it. Love it. That's so commendable. So awesome. I also noticed in your profile, you got some Navy background. Thank you for your service there.
100%.
You seem to be full of service. Like, what
Yeah.
do you look at yourself that way, or do you feel like, I mean, what has kind of shaped your path?
Well, I mean, I think what shaped my personal path and the path of people that are with us is awareness. So I've had the
Right.
privilege. I grew up I'm a child of divorce. One side of the household had all the privilege in the world, really blue blood elite. The other side of the house, a teacher, struggling through. And so really bringing the two together is what called me to
Right.
service. Now, of course, I did sign up, a few weeks after 9/11. Obviously, there's a call to duty there as a young
Awesome.
person.
Love it.
But yeah, after separating from the military, and again, we find this theme through everybody that we work with is a mission to bring something better. And we're doing some things that are new. We're certainly implementing, I would say advanced technologies when and where possible. However, this
Yeah.
business model is not a new business model, but what we're doing the way we're doing it is in a more responsible and I think a purposeful,
Right.
conscious way, which will sort of lead into some of the other things we talk about today, I think. Yeah.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
I love it. So as you go in, you work with local leadership, you work with people who are in government and maybe even people that aren't,
Mm-hmm.
but are just trying to help establish the foundations of their communities. And then from that, you're seeing opportunities pop up. I would imagine a lot of them are replicatable
Mm-hmm.
in different geographic targets that hey, this worked over in this town. Let's make that happen in this city. Am I wrong, or what are you kind of seeing over there as far as trends go?
Yeah, I mean, so first off, in the frontier markets, I think the biggest value you can bring is you're not trying to push one particular product, not trying to push one particular solution set. I think from somebody who's aware of all the technology, of all the potential solutions that are out there, the biggest duty that we serve our customers is, especially on the first side of the business model, is
Yeah.
an honest, right-sized solution that actually fits the problem. What we see in the frontier markets is,
Gotcha.
yeah, companies, organizations coming over and trying to be a solution to, finding that problem. Where we've
Right.
where we've had a blessing is, being aware of all the solutions in the developed, more advanced
Right.
markets, and then being able to match them together. So I think being that market
Right.
maker, being
Right.
that
Right.
matching entity is really the value we bring there on that front side.
I love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very cool.
Yes, sir.
Very cool. So I love it. So you're going in, seeing the problems, knowing solutions and then brokering those solutions to somehow match what the problem actually is.
Exactly. And if you look to, I mean, anybody who's been through an accelerator, sort of a lean startup methodology,
Totally.
yeah, exactly. So you're out there and you're constantly doing what I would say hypothesis validation or devalidation. And so,
Right.
you're
Right.
listening to those customers, you're listening to those folks, you're, translating in some
Yeah.
instances, right? Both from a language standpoint, but then also a
Needs.
need standpoint, because their point of reference
Yeah.
maybe isn't as broad as yours is. So, um,
Love
yeah,
it.
so you're using some of that lean startup methodology all the time in nearly every interaction you have.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
So now that we understand what your business does, who you serve, talk to us about your business. I mean, you've been in business for what, 11, 12, 13? How long?
Yeah. So I incorporated the company in
Over a decade.
over a decade, 2013. It's now 2023. So I guess over a decade. Yep. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Thank
Congrats.
you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Tell me one thing though. I every founder I talk to, they tend to have this commonality in that it's almost impossible to carry the load you carry alone.
Mhm.
Is there somebody in your network, somebody that's close to you that has kind of been that pillar you've been able to lean on when you're dealing with some of those frustrating times?
Absolutely. I would say my wife, my best friend. Um,
Awesome.
I firmly believe that the ability to go do these things is rooted in both your faith and in your family.
Love it.
I can't you know as a I guess being a single individual or someone who doesn't believe, I could imagine it would be
Yeah.
substantially harder. I think,
No kidding.
yeah, and I think the last one is, look, where we do work is where the human race beings originated out
Right.
of, and so
Right.
I sort of draw strength from my faith, my family, and then I draw energy from the fact that when you're there, you feel really close to the origins of where we came from, and so that's a,
I
a
love it.
uniquely powerful feeling.
Hey,
You know,
don't be ashamed of having faith, and don't be ashamed of your family. I think that for every founder out there, you need to make those your primary assets that you control and are a part of.
and that's
No doubt about
you
it.
know and that's who we're working for. I mean, we recently had a big team meetup in Nairobi, and
Yeah.
the team, we came and we talked about this, and we said, look, all of us are successful. You're already taken care of. This is really about your children, their children. This isn't about today's
Right.
generation. It's about the next and the next. And so I think there's
Right.
that common value between us of, obviously we're chasing
Cool.
profits, chasing returns, but also wanting to do something good for the future, and getting our hands dirty by doing it. So
Love it.
yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Well, yeah, last time I was on a retreat in Nairobi. No, sorry, I didn't have one of
Oh,
those. But
okay.
that sounds amazing.
It is. It is. I urge everybody to go. It's just such an amazing place. All of Africa. Pick your pick
That's
your
so
pick your
cool.
flavor. It's amazing. Yeah,
Well, I may be hitting you up later for ideas. I've got some excursions planned with some other founders, so
I love it.
we may have to invite you to join.
Hey, I'm there, and if not, I'll just give you all the pointers. You have an amazing time.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, for those of you listening, business is fun no matter where you do it. But I will say that doing business internationally brings a whole new layer of fun that oftentimes accompanied by unpleasant surprises. But sometimes you find things you never would have expected. So if you're on that route, I would highly suggest you reach out to Darren and reach out to anyone you know who has been a part of an international growth strategy. Figure out what you don't know, because there's a lot of things, especially Americans, don't know about working outside of America. And anything you want to add to that, Darren? I actually think that's a huge, huge statement right there.
I mean, sometimes people have said, Darren, write down your memoirs. I mean, when you start doing
Right.
business, your story, your journey, the people you
Yeah,
impact, all of a sudden just becomes very complex, very fun,
it's
very
true.
rewarding. Yeah, absolutely.
True. Very true. Well, dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone being here. Darren, I especially appreciate you being here. I know that, none of us are getting paid to do this, but I hope that the paying it forward to our people to the people who are founding companies and trying to grow and scale. I hope this benefits all of you. And I hope that, we can all connect in camaraderie and encouraging other to move on, keep growing, keep scaling. And I thank you for being here.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone out there.
Well, I hope you liked that interview. For me, it did touch me. And the post interview conversation I had with Darren was even more impressive. I should have just recorded the whole thing. But Darren is just a great guy. And he is a man of integrity, a man of faith, and someone who is willing to go the extra mile to help his clients and help the people he's serving get to a place of happiness. Your business should be about happiness. Your business should always be about helping people. And yes, I do expect you to make a profit while doing it, but also have inside your heart the idea that you're not just building a product or service that people want or need, but you're building it because by doing the fulfillment of whatever you're doing, it's helping bring more happiness to other people. I love what I do. I love the companies I help. I love to see the smile on their face when the service you offer them actually worked the way you said it would, and they seem so happy. That's a feeling we all want. If you're new to the podcast and you've not heard any of our other interviews, I highly suggest you go back through and listen to more. Our founders that we have on this podcast are amazing. They share amazing stories, and they've got great experiences in their growth and scaling journey that they're sharing with you. If you're in a growth and scaling phase, this is the podcast you need to listen to. If you're starting up and you're not quite to that growth and scaling phase, listen anyway, because it's going to help shape your launch so you're better prepared to grow and scale. Thanks so much for being here. Please subscribe, join our network, and be a part of our community. We love having you here, and we hope that you find a lot of joy in the growth and scaling of your company, and we'll see you on the next episode.